And we are back. Very many thanks for choosing us to keep you company in this hour. It feels absolutely great to be with you. And just in case you're joining us, welcome to Kenya's Gold, where our focus of the day is on bee farming in Kenya. Now, also, it's important to remember that this week we did mark the World Bee Day, a day that has also been set aside to recognize the importance of other pollinators like birds, bats, etc. Now, there is a lot of work that bees does when it comes to improving our ecosystem and biodiversity. And to learn about that and more, we are joined by Mr. Fred Otieno, who is our expert of the day when it comes to all matters apiculture. Very many thanks for making time to be with us today.
Pleasure.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Now, just going straight to the conversation. Yes, this week we did mark the World Bee Day, and the theme this year was Be Engaged with Youth.
Yes.
So clearly there is a lot of conversation that is being pushed towards awareness with the youth. Yeah. Why is this conversation very important with the youth at the center of it all?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. And just like you have said, I'm Fred Otieno, a CEO of Apiculture Platform of Kenya. We are based in Nairobi, Hill Plaza. And now, when I talk about the theme that we had this year, when we were celebrating the World Bee Day, right. Be engaged with youth. Meaning that we want to bring the youth on board because, you know, in the olden days, youth or many people knew that beekeeping is an old man activity. But you find that even the youth or even women can be able to engage in beekeeping and ensure that they can also improve their livelihoods. And therefore, this year, we want many youth or all the youth to be engaged in beekeeping activities so that we can even talk about the issues of job insecurity. Beekeeping can solve the issue of job creation.
Right.
Yeah, and therefore that is the reason why we want to bring the youth on board so that we also contribute to job creation.
Right. So yes. The agenda is to get a lot more youth in beekeeping. So that is the idea, which is great. But how are we executing it on the ground? What more are we doing as opposed to just waiting for the World Bee Day and we are out there and loud about it? What about the other 364 days of the year?
That's a very good question. In fact, we have already started creating awareness through several venues, including even the schools. We have even the technical colleges, even in the universities. And you also find that we have different stakeholders, partners who are also engaging youths. And therefore, we are not just waiting for the 360 days, but we are trying to engage all the sector players in ensuring that youths are involved in beekeeping.
All right.
Yes.
Now, the economic value of pollination is about 20 times more than that of bees, than that of honey, which many people relate bees with. So talk to that viewer back at home who needs to understand properly what we are talking about when it comes to the role that bees play when it comes to improving biodiversity.
That's a very, very good question. In fact, very many people have I've been thinking about when they see bees, first of all, it's the sting. And also after the sting, there's honey. But the bees are playing a very, very major role in the biodiversity. Just like our farmer of the week said and mentioned, that bees are doing a lot of pollination of the flowering plants. And the flowering plants, when we don't have pollinators, bees are the major pollinators. We also have other pollinators, but bees are the major pollinators in the biodiversity. So when the bees go looking for nectar and pollen, they do the role of pollinating those flowers, whereby the crops also improve their productivity. And therefore, it is very, very important to have the bees, apart from the sting, which we can find a way on how to mitigate the stinging itself.
Right.
They help us in pollinating the crops, even the food that we are eating. And therefore, bees are very, very important.
Right.
Yes.
Do all bees sting?
Yeah, we have like stingless bees,
right,
that do not sting, but the one we call the honeybee,
right,
they sting.
all right.
Even if some are docile, some are aggressive, but they both have sting.
Right.
So if you are looking for the bees that does not sting, then the stingless bees are there, but they are not as much productive as the stinging bees.
Right.
Yes.
So when you say they're not as much productive as the stinging
in terms
bees,
of
is it
honey.
All right,
Yeah,
but they're also great when it comes to pollination.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Now, I want to make this as practical as it can get.
Yes.
Fred, I remember when I was young.
Yes.
And when I am talking young, I mean primary school young. I have been stung by a bee several times.
Yes.
There was just very many instances where there was a bee sting somewhere.
Yes.
In my adult days, I almost feel like I've forgotten how that felt like. So it's beginning to feel like we are having a serious decline in bees. Is that the reality on the ground?
In fact, we have a decline because of the climate change. And you know, climate, we have water, we have crops, and that is where the bees also depend on. So when water diminishes and also crops diminishes, even our pollinators also decreases. And another thing is also about agricultural activities, like, for example, the use of pesticides. Because you find that maybe we have gone into horticulture using, maybe there are those who are not using the chemicals in the correct way. So we need to create awareness on how to use chemicals appropriately in the crops, so that when the pollinators goes to the crops, they are not killed using the chemicals.
Right.
And I think there's an effort whereby there are those biochemicals which are less toxic to the pollinators. And this is a conversation which is still going on, so that we ensure that the pollinators do not decrease.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that issue on climate change is real, and we are experiencing it now more than ever.
Yes.
And unless we get our act right as fast as possible, this will be the situation for quite a period of time.
Yeah.
We cannot sit back and watch our bees disappear. So when we are addressing issues on matters climate change and sustainability of bees, what are the intervention measures that we can put in place to ensure sustainability of bees, regardless of what's happening with the climate? Yeah,
thank you very much. In fact, beekeeping is one of the climate smart initiative that we have. And you find that when we are talking about beekeeping, we must also talk about soil conservation, water conservation, crop conservation, and therefore any beekeeper who is keeping bees, you will find that at least they will be planting or growing crops and also conserving water that we are having. So you find that there are the management practices that are involved in beekeeping that also helps to contribute into mitigating the climate change effects.
All right.
Yes.
Talk to that farmer back at home who wants a clear understanding of how they can incorporate bee farming in their farm.
Yeah, now, I talked about bees doing pollination. And when you are growing things like, for example, avocado, or you are growing things like bananas, mangoes, even the indigenous vegetables, you need pollinators. And when you need pollinators, even your crop productivity will increase when you have the pollinators around. And apart from having the pollinators around, you will also have something from the hive, if you have at least one hive or two hives there. So you will find that apart from pollinating your crops, the bees will also producing for you some honey and other products. Because just like we mentioned previously, it is not honey alone which we can get from the hive, but we have also other products that can also be found from the hive, which can also add the household income of a farmer.
Are we working with farmers groups to make sure that this information is sensitized to them? Because to be really honest, on this show, we travel far and wide to speak to farmers. And apart from those who are doing beekeeping as their farming practice, it's so rare to find a farmer who just with their vegetables has incorporated bees in there. So there's a knowledge gap.
Yeah, you are right. You are right, because the issue of awareness creation is still low, but currently it has picked up. Because you see, even today we are talking about beekeeping and pollination crops. This is one of the ways we are trying to ensure that our farmers get that information. We have also the issue of social media, the magazines. We have also projects, even the national projects, whereby they also bring farmers on board and train them on how they can incorporate beekeeping into their cropping activities.
All right. Are there any particular crops that bees are attracted to most?
Provided it is producing flower, and not just flower, nectar and pollen.
Right.
So if they are producing nectar and pollen, the bees will be attracted to it.
Great.
But now we're also working together with the agronomists so that we also understand the crops that we are having within the ecosystem or within the where farmers are living.
Right.
Yes.
So I want to get into beekeeping. I've listened to this explanation that you're giving us, and it sounds like a great deal, right? Yes. So are there any geographical conditions I need to be keen on when it comes to beekeeping, or can it work anywhere?
Basically, if we take Kenya as a whole, Kenya has a high potential of beekeeping.
Right.
But you'll find that there are some areas whereby it does well more than the others.
Please give us examples of those
For example, the bees usually thrive a lot in dry areas or less humid areas because of the humidity. When they have a lot of humidity in their wings, they are not able to fly very fast. But when it is in dry areas, they are able to run very fast and move very fast. But even in the less dry areas or humid areas, they will still do, but their activities will be less because of the humidity, a lot of humidity in the air. So you find that when you want to keep bees, there are some factors that need to be considered. For example, do you have flowering plants in your area? Do you have access to water? Are you in areas where there is no excess wind that will interfere with the movement of bees? The issue of direct sunlight. Now, those are some of the factors that a beekeeper need to understand in their area where they are living.
All right, Fred, there's a paradox somewhere, and this is me who's really trying to understand the concept of bee farming. You've mentioned they do very well in dry areas. Right? And then again, in the factors that I need to consider is water. And so I'm wondering, okay, please help me understand, because already I was thinking, oh, dry areas, so I don't have the pressure of water, but here you are slapping me with the fact that we need water. Help us understand the importance of water when it comes to bee farming.
Provided people are living there is water. Because humans knows where water is. And even if they have like boreholes or water pans, you can also provide water for the bees. I talked about water conservation, water harvesting and water conservation. So those are some of the mechanisms we can use to ensure that we have water close to where we are rearing the bees. Because you cannot say that you can't keep bees where in dry areas, provided there are plants there. When there are plants there, meaning that there is water. So you can innovate, because we are talking about creativity and innovation. Where plants are or where crops grow, there is water. So meaning bees will be able to access water from there.
Great.
Yes.
What a great conversation that we are having right here in studio with Fred Otieno, who is an apiculture expert. We want to take a short commercial break right now, but when we come back, we want to understand a lot more. Now that we were celebrating the World Bee Day, what are some of the milestones that we have achieved in the country when it comes to the apiculture sector, and what are the hopes for the future? That and a lot more coming up when we come back from this short break.